Hello everyone. In this video we cover metric sales and inventory intake. Starting with an example, we'll use a barcode to scan an item and do a transaction. So the barcode, I'm just going to scan it in there. What happens is that order was just created, the item gets added on the order. In this case we have a price prompt. We select the item. Then if we look at edit cart, we will see that the associated label has the associated item has the metric tag associated with it. If we wanted, we can now print the label for this item. Before we begin the process of going through how to intake inventory and how all the inventory process works, I'm going to just take us over this inventory tab. We can look at this item that we just scanned, which was the 500 milligram Evo, as we see up here. And if we click edit, we'll see that we have we had started with 29, we have 22 left. We scanned it a few times, and so we have a track record of how much we took in. When we get into conversions, you'll see where these values play out, why we have converted to units and base rate, base package amounts, and that kind of thing. And we'll see here that we have a trace of every time this item was sold, and we'll see the dates and times that this inventory was modified. As you can see, we have many inventory items already imported, and several of them are the same, so you can have multiple imports of the same product because you're going to be tracking those different packages that you received. They'll have their own labels and their own SKU that you'll be able to reconcile with.
Okay, in order to show some additional features, we're going to have to switch over from the browser, which we're using Firefox right now, to the app. And so we don't see those tabs at the top, but here we are. And on the right hand side now, when we select an item, we would now be able to print labels. So the app will allow you to print natively to your label printer, and it'll print any label that you have already set up. So we only have one here and set up, but you could print multiple formats of labels for any of your products here in inventory. So you just select the item. The printer is just going to use the last printer you selected, and then you can input the quantity that you want to print out. We can also look at moving inventory from one section to another, so I'll focus on one item here. And here we have this front and back, so our inventory has been received into different locations, and if we want to move some of our inventory from one section to another, we can do that. So if we choose location, we can split this into different packages. So if I want to move some of this into the back, and it creates another package and splits those up. So now we'll have a couple packages in the back and a couple in the front. We have events, which shows us any changes to the items based off of different reasons, sales or transfers. So you can go back and view the history of your items based off of whatever has happened to them. So if anything has a change, here we see the change of inventory counts every time this item was sold. We can access the inventory details from this section. We can access the product or item itself from this section as well. Now that we have a simple understanding of the inventory side, we'll go look at the metric side. And here we have a list of imported packages, but we'll first look at what other features that we need to use, which are facilities. So facilities have already been imported. It's simple. You just press import and any facilities in your list will come in. We're using METRC's test data, so not all of this information is going to look clean. There might be some other testers out there that are using this and make some silly information in the database. Then we also have categories, and it's also, again, pretty straightforward. Use the import, and it imports the categories. So these are used when working with the METRC packages. We'll just go to packages now. And so we have a list of packages. You might have some imported packages, and so if you can toggle between those. You might have some packages that you have marked as inactive, and in the case where we have some of these junk packages, we might go in here and change them to be inactive so that we don't have to see them anymore. So this list is not going to show inactive packages unless we choose to show all active or inactive packages. And so then we can import items from this package list. Now, some items might exist in our system. For example, we've created a matching item called Tar Baby Drops in our item list. So if I go up to item list, I can type in Tar Baby or Tar, and we see that we have Tar Baby Drops. Now, if items don't exist in the list, your item will not show up in the search items. So you'd have to go ahead and you could go over here, add the item, come right back here, and when you type it in, it'll show up on your list if you need to add in some of these new products. Now, the test information from METRC does not contain any batch information or source harvest information. The source harvest would be listed above here, and the batch number would be automatically entered if it exists. So that would also be entered, and so would your search facility. Now, if you need to change these, you can change those, and simply typing in anything will begin to show up on your list here. I need to put that back in. It was this one. Okay, and so then you would, in a case like, we'll go back to the Tar Baby, because we already have it. And this is going to be an each. Now we can take in a product from the list. So we will choose this Tar Baby, which is an each. And we're presented with some information. So it will already have this item assigned to it. And then we have the search facility, the source harvest for our test data, or the batch number does not populate, so we'll just manually fill that in. But when not using the test data from METRC, you would actually receive your batch number there. Then we will move this inventory into locations. So we have front and back right now, and we can portion this up into different locations. So I can choose to assign it to some to the front and some to the back. The cost, I'm going to just leave 0 here, but you can fill that out, or it will take the product's default cost. We then hit assign, and now we can complete the package. The package is imported, and we don't see it on our list anymore. So if we were to switch over to imported, we would be able to find it down here on the list. Now that it's imported, we should be able to find it in inventory. And if we want, we can just go ahead and look it up. That might be easier. So we have these two packages that we created the front and the back, and they have their own barcode. And to switch over to our app now. And I just like to use the browser because it's easy to switch back in tabs back and forth for training purposes here. Okay, each items are simple. What we want to look at next are items that are a little bit more sophisticated. Now, while we see that the unit of measurement for these that we have is grams, you could also receive in as pounds and ounces. Pointless will convert the units that you're intaking from pounds to ounces to grams, and then you can package from there. If we're looking at an item or in here that we are going to take in just a few grams, I'll find something with a small amount, like for example, I suppose we have 240. So we would press intake. Now we don't have Wade's Wonder Weed, so in this example, we'll just use a different item that we have. Okay, we can put in a fake batch number like before. We can choose to put in some of these values. And the values that come from here would also be able to be imported from METRC, or some of them, and then others you can have default from your product. And so if you request that you need any particular field values filled in from METRC, let me know and we'll take care of that as well. Now the difference between each and grams is that you have a lot of conversion options. So we can convert this to eighths, half-eighths, quarters, etc. And we can create multiple packages of that. So if we wanted to look at creating half ounce, it's going to tell us how many usable packages there are, or for eighths, how many usable packages there are for eighths, and then we can assign a front or back location just like before, and we can say how many packages we want to do. So if we say 50, we now have 50, and we have more items to take in. So if we said grams, we can now take in 65 grams, the remaining grams available here. It gives us a little alert, and we hit complete package, and now that would have been imported. Now we'll look at joints. So we've got this, and in this item, once again, we're going to just use some kind of name here that, well, we'll just do a name I might be more familiar with. So this bomb shelf item, just a generic item. And now we can choose inventory, and we can choose, for example, in this case, joints. So joints are slightly different in that you can input the weight of the joint, and that will determine the quantity that you can do. And now we can create those joints and have an inventory of joints that are 1.5 grams. It's that simple. But as I mentioned before, now you would be able to select the item, select the type of label that you need to print for it, select the printer you want to print for it, and print out the labels for this item. You would then be able to sell them as we did in the beginning of this video, and that is the process for intake to sale. If you have any questions, email support@PointlessPOS.com. Thank you.